one. Oh, I got the one from last time. I just didn't post it yet. YouTube.
Oh, the live. Yeah.
You can't edit the live. I don't know how to take the live.
So what you edit? Are you editing the audio?
Get this.
Huh?
I record. I get this one and I take it to the app.
So you editing the audio, or this one?
I'm gonna edit this one.
Okay.
I put it on YouTube. So
Oh, so you just record it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I don't get that. Maybe I need to put it on.
What's going on, peoples? Dame decided to invite me out, so I came. Here I am. See if we can get down and dirty.
If it rains, let me know.
If it rains,
Yeah. Alright, so alright, y'all. Right on that now.
Jerry said check your app.
Yeah. I ain't start.
Bookie Love. What's up, Alex? John Winters, Lavina.
You are tuned in to the Conservative Liberal Show right here on KCOH TV, The Boost, with your host, Damion and Jadonne Walker, on this historic Sunday. I meant to say something else, but I just said historic Sunday. Y'all see how I came back and I kind of, made sure I said the historic Sunday. I meant to say this historic Alameda Strip, 3rd Ward, Turkey Leg Hook, Emancipation, Alameda Takeover, the Hall family, the leadership of Jerry P. Beasley. Excellent shows here on KCOH, and I'm including myself, Damion Jadonne Walker, the Conservative Liberal Show. It's been in the making for some time, and we're back. And we're ending 2019 on a high note. Much anticipated guest, Kevin Bruno.
Game.
Sound like game. Y'all know I'm game right now. Much anticipated guest, Kevin Bruno. He's been a host on another show that I had with Jerry P. Beasley, the Community Voice. Kevin Bruno, again, we said some things about him earlier, and I want to clarify. We won't clarify it today, but he also is the reentry manager,
Reentry specialist.
Reentry specialist for Prison Fellowship, premier nonprofit in the world.
Probably the largest nonprofit of its kind, as far as Prison Fellowship is concerned.
Yeah, in the world, the world. Graduate of that program.
Yep.
Incarcerated for 30 years total, close to 30 years total.
Almost 30 years.
28 years. 28 years and some change. Yeah. I don't know why I heard this, and so I want you to confirm, Kevin Bruno, before you introduce yourself. I'm going to ask you this question. I want you to. Not true.
Okay.
I don't know where I heard this at, but I heard it. And it said that you were once the most feared man in TDCJ.
I don't know. You probably have to talk to some other people about that.
Okay.
If you ask me, I'm not. I couldn't give you an accurate answer.
But was you a bad boy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
That was part of the persona. I'll explain that to you later.
Okay. So you see how he set that up? He's a professional, y'all. He's a professional. Kevin Bruno, man of many trades, man. Photographer, kayaker. Never go to his house unannounced because he's gonna put you in that river.
Absolutely.
Camper. So he's just a wonderful man that has probably one of the best stories that I've ever heard. I've got to hear it and see so many parts of it. Kevin, thank you for coming on the Conservative Liberal Show on KCOH TV, The Boost.
Man, thank you for having me. I grew up passing by this building when I was a child, and there used to be go-go dancers. That's how long ago it was. There used to be go-go dancers in the window, and just to have the opportunity to actually come into the studio and speak to the people, man, I'm honored and I appreciate that. I thank you for that opportunity.
Yes. Thank you for coming. We're going to get the go-go dancers back. I'm going to get them back on my show.
I'm not coming
in. Because they're around here somewhere. We'll get it back at KCOH. So, Kevin, you do a lot of work, but just tell us your story. Just tell us a little bit of your story, then we'll get into some of the stuff that you do.
Okay. I spent an accumulative 28, almost 29 years incarcerated. My first stint in prison was 8 years and 4 months for aggravated robbery. 9 months later, I just couldn't wait to get back to the penitentiary. 9 months later, I was back in prison with an aggravated 60-year sentence for the same thing, for aggravated robbery. Uh, if you asked me what was wrong with me at that time, what was going on in my life, I couldn't give you any specifics because probably at that time my life was in turmoil. After spending 15 years in prison, kind of making some changes in my life, trying to make some changes in my thinking, I kind of straightened my life out while I was in prison. But when I after 15 years, I hadn't had any major infractions. They gave me what they called the set-off, 2-year set-off. I was crushed. I just knew I was going home because I'd done everything.
What type of changes do you think that you were making?
Well, I just changed my whole philosophy about being in prison. Because when I first got to prison, my first stint in prison.
What year was this?
This was in '82.
Okay. Woo.
They still had building tenders, still had turnkey. There was still a place where I experienced the closest thing to slavery that a person in modern times could experience. Because in prison, I don't know if you can still if you on radio, but
yeah,
no. Yeah, that's what I said. But in prison,
yeah,
at that time, there was a white guy on a horse,
yeah,
like the slave master,
yeah,
and you were that N-word,
yeah,
or anything else he decided to call you, and they
I
treated you.
Oh
yeah, I experienced that.
Yeah.
And there were inmates who ran the prison who were vicious and violent and brutal, and that was an experience.
In the book, Harriet Beecher Stowe, Uncle Tom's Cabin, Uncle Tom wasn't what we think he is. So I suggest, or I implore people to read the book and figure out who Uncle Tom was, because we are misusing that name.
Yeah, exactly.
Masters that are former slaves, and I remember this quote because it jumped out in the novel when I was reading the novel, that former slaves basically make the worst slave masters.
Yeah, they do. Because what happens is you have the opportunity to, after being subjugated for so long, after being abused for so long, when the tables are turned and you have the actual opportunity to be that abuser.
Yeah.
The temptation to take on the same characteristics as the slave master is something that you have to fight, and it's not something that very many ex-slaves were able to do.
Yeah. So 82, you're in prison. You're going through this process. What's your transition?
Man, I mean, when you say transition,
like how you coming from society. How old are you?
Oh, I was 20. I turned 21 in prison.
So you come from society at 21.
Mm-hmm.
Had you already been boxing at that time? Of course,
yeah. I'd already been fighting. I had, as a matter of fact, that was part of the situation. I think it's kind of hard to tell people about incarceration without giving them some background on your life prior to that. Most of the individuals that you find who've been incarcerated have had some type of trauma in their life growing up. Nobody wakes up and just say, I'm gonna be a crook. I'm going to prison. I'm gonna decide that I just want to go to prison. Mm. So there were some events in my life prior to that kind of traumatized me. Didn't know anything about it. Didn't know anything about being traumatized. Didn't know anything about any of that.
Okay.
So by the time that I got to prison, I was dealing with some stuff that I didn't know I was dealing with.
Okay.
Even as a fighter, one of the things that I lacked as a fighter, one of the things that probably kept me from being one of the best fighters that the world had seen, and I'm not saying that in a boastful way. I'm saying that because other people who had trained to me said the same thing, was the fact that I lacked confidence. Things that kept me.
How do you lack confidence in being effective? Because I've
be
seen the
surprised.
scrapbook.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah,
you'd be surprised. I was fearful. I was scared. Not only was I scared to death when I got in the ring every time.
Yeah.
I was scared to death, period, in my life.
Yeah.
I was afraid of everything. But knowing how to fight and being able to fight gave me a disguise. If you saw me in the ring fighting, it was like, man, I'm not messing with that dude.
Yeah.
You know. But if you knew me outside of the ring and you knew the real me, you were like, man, that dude, that's just as soft as he. He's just as cowardly.
Now, where did that come from?
Just trauma in my life.
Okay.
You know, a lot of different things. I enough time in this show for me to go through all that.
Well, we got a TV show coming soon.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. But I mean, it's just, and that's one of the things that we don't think about. We don't think about the things that happen in people's lives that create who they are.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that was my situation.
Okay, so now you're in prison.
And I'm in prison, and I had to.
With this trauma, well,
let me tell you how that works.
Okay.
You hear all the stories about the fights, about the rapes, about the abuses. You hear all of that, and then you don't know firsthand, but you've heard this, and now you find yourself in a position where you're going to prison.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to be abused.
Okay.
I wasn't going to be raped. I wasn't going to go through all of that. So I had to create another persona. I had to create this guy who everyone was so fearful of, they wouldn't say anything to. So I would never have to go through that.
Okay. How did that work?
It worked well. I turned into a monster.
Yeah.
I was, as you said, and I've heard that before, I was probably one of the most feared men in prison at that time because I didn't care.
Yeah.
I needed not to be afraid.
Yeah.
And I needed you not to put me in a position where I would be afraid. So I created fear in other people.
Yeah.
I made sure that when you saw me, I did things that were unthinkable, things that you would not imagine that a human being would do, because I needed you to be so afraid of me that you never confronted me. The problem became 8 years, 4 months in prison, being that person. I couldn't turn it off.
That's what I was going to ask you. I thank you for saying that.
I couldn't turn it off. And that's something that I deal with even today.
Yeah.
Even after almost 30 years in prison and after 10 years of being free and still working with the prison system, I struggle with, at times, having to turn that off.
Because the audience has to understand this. That's 8 years every day.
Yeah. 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day. Wake up.
Yeah.
That's 8 years every day being a monster.
Yeah.
It's every day. I mean, that's something that you have to understand. I never say it's the men and women that are going to war. Like that's a term that it's always difficult to say, but it's like that because it's all the time.
Yeah.
That's why personally, the people that I've known that have been to war and battle, and the people that have been to prison that have had those type of experiences, it's right on the same level. One is that you were serving your country, and one is you made some mistakes. True enough, but it's the fact that it's every single day. OG1 told me that. Rick, he say, man, you have to learn how to turn it off. He say, because in prison you're here, and I'm using my hands, y'all. I'm just up high. I always say this. In prison, you're always one level. You stay on 100 and you don't know how to turn it off.
Right.
And after my 17 years, I didn't know how to turn it off.
Right.
I was always get up and go. I get up and you gone. I don't get up. I don't have to take time. I'm gone.
I'm still up at 3:30 every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just, I mean, and that's one of the things that people who deal with formerly incarcerated people, male or female, have to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
The fact that in order for you to survive in prison, you have to become someone else.
Yeah.
You can't go, unless you go into prison already being a monster, then it's impossible to go into prison and not have to change to be able to survive prison.
Okay, so now you're in that portion, you're surviving, you're in the fields, you created this persona, you got ready to get out, you got out after eight and a half years. How does that look?
Came right back.
Yeah.
Got out after 8.5 years, and one of the things that men do in prison, I don't know if women do it, but I know that men do it in prison, is they sit around and they tell each other lies.
Mm-hmm.
And then they create another persona.
Yeah.
You know, they talk about all the things they're going to do when they get out, and the things that they're not going to tolerate when they get out. And I got caught up in that, and I was telling everybody in the prison, man, when I get out, you know, I want to do the right thing, but the first time that I get a check that looks funny, I know how to go get my money.
Yeah. And so you created failure in yourself.
Already. First thing I did. So when I got out, and that actual scenario played out, in my mind, I had drummed that into my spirit.
Yeah.
I had already drummed that into my spirit that, man, when this situation occurs, this is how I'm going to react. Exactly how I reacted. I went and got a pistol, went back and started robbing. Ended up with aggravated 60 years.
60.
Right back in prison.
9 months.
I didn't stay out long enough for my bunk to get cold. My bunk was still warm when I got back.
So now you back in. What prison?
When I went back,
No, I'm talking about the first time.
the first time. My first unit was Central.
Okay.
Yeah, my first unit was Central.
It was kind of crazy back then, though.
Well, we had the first black warden.
All right.
Warden. I ain't even call his name.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then he was a crook.
Yeah.
He called me in his office because he knew I had a robbery case. He called me in his office and offered me all these things, gave me a job.
Yeah.
And then told me, said, man, Bruno, you know why I'm doing all this for you? And I said, no, sir. I think because when they listed my crime, they said money never.
Yeah.
He said, because I think that one day you're going to walk in my office and you're going to say, Warden, I want to tell you where this money is because I'm tired of it being on my mind. 6 months into that, I hadn't made a trip to his office. He wrote me a bogus case and got me shipped. And I ended up on Cofield.
Okay.
Gladiator School 2.
Yeah.
From Cofield.
Yeah.
And Darrington at that time had one of the highest murder rates in the nation. So.
Yeah. Whew. So now you're back in prison. What unit did you go to?
When I went back to prison the second time, I was on live when I was at.
Because it's 16 years right there.
Back to prison.
Yeah,
I got back to prison. I was starting my 9th year. This was 9 years. I did 8 years and 4 months the first time.
Okay.
Got out, stayed out 9 months.
Okay.
Now I'm back.
Okay.
Now it's into my 9th year of just being caught up in that incarceration circle.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the first unit that I went to. I want to say it was Retrieve.
Okay.
But I ended up going to a lot of different units.
Well, how's your mind frame now? Like, well,
let me tell you,
I know what to do. You still got a name because you hadn't been gone that long.
And when I first got there, I wanted to fall back into that. I wanted to go back to that same persona. But things had changed. Prison had changed. Man, I went to the fields to do field work, and one of the inmates cussed the officer out.
And you was like, what?
I hit the ground. I just know it's getting ready to be some shooting. I'm like, man, this man finna get his brains blown out. But that was the new era.
Yeah.
This was a whole nother generation.
It flipped in 9 months.
In the 9 months I had been gone. It probably been doing that while I was still there because I ended up on LS2 before I got shipped. But before I went home. So it had probably already been changing. But by the time I got back, it had completely flipped.
Okay.
So now there's another readjustment. And my soul was weary.
Yeah.
I had just gotten out. I'm already back. Man, my soul was so weary. So I in myself, I said I needed to make some changes because I didn't want to be that guy. I knew the guy I had been while I was out. I knew the discomfort that I felt being that guy while I was out. And I knew that I didn't want to spend, because I had to do 15 years flat to come up. I didn't want to spend 15 years trying to be that guy. I didn't have that in me. So I told myself that I was going to change. That I was going to do some things differently. So I started to do those things differently. I actually got started practicing Islam. That kind of changed my life in the respect of giving me more discipline. Just for disclaimer, I'm no longer Muslim. I'm Christian. They're gonna die believing in Christ, and serving Christ. But anyway, I just started changing the way that I saw life and the way that I started to live my life, even in prison. One of the biggest catalysts for my change was my mother came to see me on a visit one time, and she told me about how she had been coming down the stairs and walking down the stairs at her home. She just collapsed on the stairs, and she sat there and she just cried. And the reason that she was crying was because she was weary. She was tired. I had taken my family through this the first time for 8 years and 4 months. Now we're back at this again, and we know that there's a minimum of 15 years that we've got to do together doing this again. And the pain that I saw in her and I heard in her voice, I was done.
Okay.
I was done. That was it. I knew that at that point, man, this penitentiary thing was over with for me.
So now you're in, and you have this this revelation that your mother tells you the story. You want to change. So what do you start getting involved in? Because now you educated a certain way, and
Right.
I talked about that in the first hour, and I always talk about that on the show. So you educated a certain way. Now what do you start putting in your soul? What do you start putting in your mind to become the person that you figure that you need to be?
Well, everything and anything that I could find that was positive.
Okay.
I read everything. I mean, I read voraciously while I was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
I just anything I get my hands on. For a while, I'd been in SIG. I read while I was in SIG. I read everything and anything. I read the Quran. I read the Bible. I read everything. And what I started to do then was I wanted to. Once I became Muslim, and I was elevated to the position of imam.
Mm-hmm.
That's a position of respect within the Islamic community in prison.
Yes.
So I needed to be able to I wanted to garner the respect rather than the fear of people. Now my whole concept has changed. I don't want you to fear me. I want you to respect me.
How are you being accepted by those that knew you before?
There was some skepticism from a lot of people. People who would come in and who had known me and who had known my reputation would come in to see me teaching Talim on Saturdays and be like, man, y'all know that dude that ain't, nah, bro, that ain't,
Yeah.
So there was a period where I had to actually show people. And I took pride in being that different person.
Okay.
So I went through all of that. After 15 years, I came up for parole. I got a 2-year set-off. But see, God was setting me up for something greater at that time.
About it.
Yeah, I didn't know. I was upset. I was working out at the horse barn.
Yeah.
And I went out, man. I got on the horse and I rode around. I was mad because I just knew I was going home after 15 years. But 2 years later, they gave me a parole.
Okay.
After 17 years.
Okay.
Told me I was going to a program.
Okay.
An 18-month program.
All right. Let's talk about it.
So when I found out I was going to an 18-month program, I'm like, what kind of program is this? And they said, man, it's a program over at the Caravans unit.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I'm going home. So people started telling me, coming to me and saying, hey, bro, you're going to, I'm still Muslim.
Yeah.
Bro, you're going to that's a Christian program. I'm like, what? Said, yeah, man, you're going to a Christian program. So I started checking on it, and no, man, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to no Christian. Y'all not gonna make me be a Christian just so I can go home. I don't know this is the Holy Spirit in me, but the Holy Spirit came to me later on and said, man, if all you gotta do is go over there and fake with them Christians for a little while to go home, you better go on over there.
And that's all right.
That was all right. Set me up. So I thought about it. I said, oh yeah, man, I want to go home. Okay. So I'm going over there. Yeah. I got there. I was miserable. When I got there, I was ready to go.
Yeah.
Everything was in Jesus' name. Everything was we praying about Jesus, we talking about Jesus, we loving on Jesus. And I'm a Muslim.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, no, I can't do this. I thought I could do this, but I can't do this.
Yeah.
But I couldn't leave.
You could, but you chose not to.
Well, my spirit wouldn't allow me to choose to leave.
Okay.
I wanted to leave. I was miserable. Or I thought I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
So it pushed me to the point where I started praying and talking to God about it. And I got to that point where I said, Lord, if you're trying to get me to understand that I'm supposed to be Christian or to move towards Christianity, I need you to make this clear to me.
Okay.
I'll go through the whole scenario. But suffice it to say that God revealed himself to me in a way at that unit that left no doubt that it was him speaking to me, him presenting himself to me, and him showing me that this is where I want you to be. This is where I need you to be. This is what I have for you. So I accepted Christ, went to Talim service that Monday and told the brothers, man, I got some news for y'all. I'm Christian and I'm going to die Christian. Some of them accepted it. Some of them wanted to kill me.
And so they had Muslim service still at the Caravan unit, the Christian unit.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. You have to provide because it's prison fellowships academy now are so there's no discrimination based on following.
Okay.
get the same teaching, but there's no discrimination.
So now you turn, now you're converted, or this process is taking place to where you're a believer in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Still deal with stuff you said that you dealt with when you went to prison back in '82. You became this monster. How does it work now? Because now it's about turning the other cheek.
Well, it got to that point way before now.
Okay.
I made parole in 2010, and turning the other cheek is a process. Was a process. Is still a process. Because there were some things, man, that manifested themselves in me as a result of my incarceration that scared even me.
Yeah.
Prison is an aggressive place.
Mm-hmm.
Passivity in prison is met with abuse.
Yeah.
So I was aggressive. When I got out, I was still aggressive.
Okay.
The way that I remedied that is I moved out of my parents' home into a trailer and secluded myself from everybody, from all of society. Myself that I was actually okay.
Okay.
Wasn't the case. I wasn't okay. So I fast forwarded.
Mm-hmm.
I had to eventually seek therapy.
Okay.
I went to see a therapist because I wanted to know
after you got out of Caravans.
Yeah, this is after I got out.
Oh, so after you got out. So
Yeah.
let's go back a little bit to the point where your family, how you express it to your family. You are a leader over there. You are seen as a certain Christian. Tell your family and the leadership, because the way that Caravans is set up is that you have a group. So you came into this group of 40, 50 guys, and you're going to go through this 18-month program together.
Right.
And they know who you are. Some before you get there, they know who you were way back then, because they followed you. So now you're here, you're Muslim, but you switch over to Christianity. How do your brothers in the group and your group members and the program staff, how do they react to this?
Well, it's always skepticism, man.
Okay.
Most people who make transitions, even we deal with individuals, people view your change with skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
People who knew me on the unit as a Muslim viewed my change immediately with skepticism.
Okay.
How you gonna just change all of a sudden one day? And you're a Muslim, not a day you're a Christian.
One day.
Forget about Saul and Paul.
Okay.
That was hey man, you gonna do what I tell you to do, or I'm gonna blind you. Now, they forget about that, but my change of who Christ is, who God is in my life, was immediate. That I didn't feel like I needed to prove to anybody this way.
Mm-hmm.
So, the book says if you let your light shine. So I had to let my light shine. I had to let people see. I couldn't tell you I'm all in.
Yeah.
Man, that sounds like game.
Yeah.
I need to see. So, for the most part, at the beginning, there was skepticism. But I guess after watching, I had my struggles like everybody else. Watching me walk it out, brothers accepted the fact that, okay, he's sincere about this.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Outstanding. So now you're out, you're released. What is that looking like for you this time? Because now the society has changed. Society is totally different.
Cell phones.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to operate a cell phone. Just the world had changed. Everything had changed. Normal.
Yeah.
I locked myself away on our property in Houston, and pretended that everything was okay.
Yeah.
And then here recently, over the last few years, found out that it's not as okay as you thought it was.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to get
Speak to that.
Well, prison is an unnatural environment. Natural for any person to be incarcerated. And being forced to live, survive, and sustain yourself in an unnatural environment creates in you an unnatural development, an unnatural bent towards things. In other words, you don't see things the way everybody else sees things. You don't deal with things the way everybody else deals with things. You don't react to things the way that everybody else reacts to things, because prison culture demands that you do those things in a certain way.
So as you're speaking, and correct me if I'm wrong, as you're speaking, nearly 30 years, 28 years in prison, now you're out, you locked yourself away just like you would be locked away in a cell on the land. Now you find out, years later, you find out that things wasn't right. So were you institutionalized?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's impossible for you to do that. It's impossible for you to spend 1 year in prison and not be institutionalized.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
Yeah.
I was institutionalized beyond belief.
Yeah.
I needed that institutional structure. Mm-hmm. Even today, I struggle with making decisions on my own in certain situations, because for so many years, everybody made every decision for me. Yeah. You told me when to get up. You told me when to go to sleep. You told me when I could eat. You told me when I had to go to shower. Yeah. You told me everything. Every decision, every major decision in prison is made for you. You don't make major decisions in prison. Yeah. So one of the things that most men deal with when they get out of prison is that, having to make decisions, just simple decisions, because that was taken away from you. Yeah. So
and sometimes it feels like the decisions when you had the opportunity to make your own decisions, you didn't make the right ones.
Yeah. I mean, you're leery about making decisions. Now. Yeah. You're leery about making decisions. Yeah. You don't want to do when a man or a woman gets home from prison, and you make poor decisions. Not necessarily poor choices, but poor decisions. Or you struggle with making decisions, and people admonish you about it. Yeah. That kind of pushes you back a little bit. Now you're apprehensive about making decisions, because when I made decisions, check me about it. So it's like, wow, and I don't want to do that. So now it's like, I don't want to make these decisions anyway. Yeah. I didn't want to do them in the first place, so you make the decision. Simple decisions. Man, what are we going to eat? I don't know where you want to go. What we having to dinner tonight? I don't know what you want. Yeah. It's just little stuff like that.
I agree. Yeah. You're listening to KCOH TV, The Boost, the conservative liberal show with your host, Damion and Jadonne Walker. We have Kevin Bruno giving us his true life story about incarceration and overcoming, and how he is now a man of influence. It's so insightful. And there's a lot of things I knew, because I've known you since 2008, December 2008. 2009. No.
2008.
Yeah, 2008. So I've seen some things. That's a question I'm asking, because I'm like, man, I kind of remember when this happened, but I don't. So let me get some clarity right now.
Okay, come on.
Now I'm just talking about like the time.
Oh, just right now. Okay.
When you became Muslim, because I got to caravans after you had did that. I believe.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard, and I'm like, okay. And my thing was like, I'm going home. I don't want to be here either.
Yeah.
18 months, but I just did 15 years, man. This 18 months, man. Let me go home.
Yeah,
I don't need no more training. But it was a good thing for me too. So now you're out. You're going through this process. How was employment looking for you?
Well, I ended up working at a lot of different places. But one of the good things about being a part of that camaraderie and that alumni from the prison fellowship is the fact that you create a network. And a lot of the brothers who I had, as a matter of fact, every job that I got, including the one I have now, I got as a result of networking with brothers who had been in the program.
Strong.
Yeah. So that's why I encourage a lot of the guys now, man, stay connected. Because, I worked at a few different jobs, but every job that I got came through brothers that I knew, or people who I knew through the program. So, I worked. I didn't have a problem with working. I didn't have a problem with maintaining work. Eventually, I got my CDL and started driving trucks. And then while I was driving trucks, the job that I have now came up. I wasn't looking for it. God led me to call the guy who used to be the director there about a position that he had open.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That Tommy. Yeah. That he had a position open where he was going to create a position for a dispatcher. But when I called him, he was at the old IFI building in Third Ward, and he said, "Man, you need to call Darryl Brooks, my boss now, about that reentry job.
Yeah.
Because the guy that had it, they're packing his stuff up right now. He just got fired. It hadn't crossed my mind, but I felt that little inkling. So I looked at it. The first time was like, man, I could never get connected. Yeah. I could never get anything situated. So I kind of blew it off. My boy Raymond Hall called me to ask me if I had put all the paperwork in. I said, yeah, man, but I can't even find the listing, so I'm not going to worry about it. So fast forward, it came up again. And this time, and he said, man, go online and fill out the application and put your stuff in for the job. So with his encouragement, I did. Fast forward again, and God worked some things out where I walked through the process, and a few months later, I was employed.
Employed where?
With Prison Fellowship.
The same prison that you once served 18 months ago.
And that's what I was going to say. The to show you the glory of God and all of this. Because I mean, for me, this is undeniable as far as people being able to see the glory of God and all this.
Yeah. The
same back gate I walked out of, inmate.
Talk to him.
I walk into every day as the reentry specialist at the Caravans unit.
Outstanding.
The same office that I worked in as the SSI clerk.
Yeah.
The support service inmate clerk at Caravans unit. My office is in that same office. My office overlooks that desk, the same desk I sat at.
Yeah.
Every day when I walk out of my office into the hallway, I look across the hall into two dorm to see the bunk that I slept in for the 18 months that I was there.
Talk about it.
So when people want to talk about God's glory and seeing what God does, there's no way for you to deny the fact that here's a man that came from the story we just finished talking about from beginning to end, to where God takes me full circle and says, now I want you to go back in and serve the people that you once were. So that's the opportunity that I get every day. That's the honor that I get every day. That's the privilege. Go back to Caravans unit working for Prison Fellowship as a reentry specialist and pouring into the men who are getting ready to get out.
To clarify, the prison that he was released from, that he did 18 months that he did not want to go to.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That he made the transition from Muslim to Christian at, that he struggled at, he struggled with himself with some things, that he was released from. He is now the reentry specialist for Prison Fellowship, one of the largest prison ministry nonprofit in the world, with prisons around the world.
Yep. So a big shout out to Prison Fellowship. Man, they were the vehicle that God used to put me on a different path. So.
To them too. So I'm gonna tell a quick story too. We want to shout out to our sponsor Robert Henry from Robert Henry Clothing. He will get us our shirts soon, but we got a big thing, reentry conference coming up. Reentry gathering in January sometime. We're working with the date right now. We want to let y'all know soon, so we'll have some concrete information for y'all next Sunday. But we thank you guys for being with us. So I want to tell this quick story real fast because it's relevant to what we're doing now. Mr. Dorsett, who you talked about, who kind of gave you a lead on the job, was walking out the prison. He had a camera, and he was going to donate it to a volunteer. And Kevin stopped Mr. Dorsett. I heard the story 12 times because I'm a major part of the story now. I heard it so I can tell it just like he can tell it. He like, Mr. D, where you going with that camera? He's like, well, I'm going to donate it to a volunteer. Well, I can learn the camera. And Bruno say, Mr. D say, Bruno, you But I'm telling you, I can figure it out.
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, I can figure it out. Mr. Dorsett gave Kevin Bruno that camera, and that started a film school at Caravans. He was the first person. We have film curriculum. Because I was the second over that camera. One of the reasons that I went to the University of Houston was because of that camera. One of the reasons I have a broadcast journalism degree is because of that camera. So tell them about your camera story. Tell them about what you're doing and about what you just did.
Well, just exactly like you just said, Dorsett came in with the camera, and I didn't even know it was a camera in it. He just had this big box.
Yeah.
So I followed him to his office, and he pulled it out, and I'm like, it's a camera. What you gonna do with this? He said, we finna donate it. Donate it for what? I said, we don't have nothing to do with this. I said, man, well, let us do something with it. He said, who gonna work it? I said, me. He said, you don't know nothing about no camera. I said, man, I learned. Give me some time to learn. In 3 days, I gave the man a short film. So he was like, I thought you said camera. I said, I don't. He looked at me kind of crazy. So it took off from there. Even today, right now, I'm over the media production team.
Okay.
So full circle again. These guys are doing. They do all the photography. Right now they're doing video interviews with different people. That kind of planted a seed in me that long time ago about actually being involved in photography and videography. So that's what I do now. I have a Kevin A. Bruno Media Production. We do photography and videography. So right now I'm doing a series of documentaries, interviews with guys who were previously incarcerated, and kind of telling their stories, kind of doing what we do. So,
what opportunity was provided for you recently because of your camera work? I'm
trying to remember which one you're talking about.
Where'd you travel to?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how I forgot that. There's a wonderful organization called Every Village. And what Every Village did was every village adopted South Sudan. Mm-hmm. And the people of the South Sudan, the South Sudanese people. And I had the opportunity to go on a mission trip with Every Village to South Sudan.
Still on parole?
Still on parole.
Okay.
With a passport. I didn't sneak over there, sneak back. I had a passport, still got a passport, to shoot some video and just actually work with them on the mission trip.
Okay.
So, I've got I took thousands of pictures. Mm-hmm. I'm still in the process now of editing all my pictures. I'm going to make some of those available who are interested in them. But so that was just one of the opportunities, man, that I actually had, that I just, as a result of going all the way back to my days in prison and the opportunity to actually work with the video. Had I not done that, had I not had the opportunity, I would never have kindled the desire to be involved in digital media. So that took me all the way to South Sudan.
Crazy. About to be donated camera got in your hands, and I'm gonna tell you what happened. Me and a young brother, Montreal Major, because he took over when I left.
When you left, yeah.
First, I was the second. I had the opportunity to film James Fortune when he came in.
Yeah.
We had a concert.
Yeah.
And it was this big concert that Mr. Parade put on. He used to put them on every year. The Jamboree or the Jubilee or something.
Something he did every year. I forgot the name of it.
Shout out to Dan Parade out there in Columbus,
Parade,
Texas.
Absolutely.
He wants you to come out, and you'll go out there. He wants you to come out there and sleep on the lake with him. I'm not doing
I have no problem with it.
I'm not doing it. I'm not, alligators snatching people in the lake. So James Fortune came to the prison through actually one of my group members was his first cousin, Miss Merlette Alexander, my adopted mother. I got a few adopted mothers these days. James Fortune came in. So by this time, when you had left, they had provided us with these like earpieces. So you had like 5 or 6 earpieces. So at this time, we had more cameras.
Yeah.
So I got the #1 earpiece. So I'm saying like camera one, zoom in.
I said we didn't have all that.
Yeah, we camera two. Make sure you get the praise down.
Yeah, we didn't have all that.
So I'm doing this. I'm like a CBS broadcast up there on Sunday, NFL broadcast, man. And it was wonderful again, just because the fact that you had the insight, the Holy Spirit worked through you. You wanted to change. You were tired. You had been back and forth in prison. For you to have said, Mr. Dorsett, let me. 10 years later?
Yeah.
10 11 years later, there's a media group in Caravans because of the change that you wanted to make in you.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right.
That's amazing.
And not just that, because you think about the tentacles from that program. You know, you and what you've passed on to Majors, and what Majors is passed on to somebody else, and what everybody is just passed on. Because there are a number of people now that I talk to who have benefited in one way or another from that program. So you just never know, man. I'm just blessed to be able to have been able to be in that position and be mindful of the Holy Spirit moving in me, saying do this, because I didn't know what the effects of it would be. So,
and being obedient.
Yeah,
that's one of the main things. Like being obedient. It's just amazing to be, and we talk about. We talk about having this platform and doing things that we can. We talk about the funding. We talk about the recidivism. We talk about all these elements. But one of the main elements, if you can hear it in Bruno's voice, is that I just wanted to become who I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Like providing opportunities for individuals to become who they were supposed to be, because life came at them fast sometimes.
Yeah.
Life came at me fast. I was selling crack at 14 years old. Life came at me fast. Life came at Edwin fast. He was 12 years old and had a murder case.
Yeah.
So sometimes life comes at people fast and they're just not equipped. And it may be a mother or father decision. It may be a county decision where they not on food stamps anymore. Anything can happen. You don't necessarily know, but if you are able to provide an opportunity where a person can become who they were meant to be, that's all you can ask for.
And it's I think one of the hardest things that guys who are incarcerated and guys and women who are previously incarcerated, one of the hardest things that they're going to face, and for people who meet them, is helping them to understand, or helping them to walk through that transition. It's a transition, man. It's a struggle. It's going to be a constant struggle. I was listening to you earlier when you were talking with the young lady about
the copay.
The copay in prison, and you know, you think about, I don't even know how many people think about this, but and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because number one, TDCJ doesn't pay inmates. So any funds that an inmate has on his or her account came from family members.
Yeah.
So that burden that you placing on them isn't on them; it's on the family member.
Yeah.
And they may be struggling trying to scrape up a little money, hygiene products and all of that.
Yeah.
And the minute it hits your books, they take it to pay for medical.
Yeah.
But you got me here. I'm not saying that you need to feel sorry for me, but what I'm saying is you got me here. You working me. You know, and then the little money I give from my family, you taking because I need some medical attention.
Exactly.
So it's just a lot of things that people deal with in prison that will give them a negative outlook when they get out. You know, you think about how this is to most people. This is a form of persecution.
Yeah.
I need toothpaste. I need deodorant. I need soap. But when I get it, you take it because I needed medical attention also. So when I get out, I got a little attitude, man. It's like,
you not having to pay for it. And that's the question I have, and maybe we could jump into deeper. If you're in there for 3 years and you don't pay it, because $100 a year copay, I guess $100 a year.
I'm not sure how to, something like that.
We need to find out. So Savannah is our research person, so we'll find out more. Mr. James Bell is tuned in. Mr. James Bell said, "Good job, Kevin Bruno."
Oh, thank you, my brother.
And Mr. Bell, we also talked a lot about Brother Reginald Holt. So if you weren't able to look at the first half, go look at the first half, the one that's on Facebook. And again, excellent job yesterday that you guys did. I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate Tasha's leadership. Again, I've been around her for a better part of 9 years, so I appreciate you guys.
For those of you who don't know who he's talking about, James Bell is the director down at Harris Health. Yeah. Their reentry. He was Reginald Holt's supervisor.
Yeah.
and a wonderful, powerful man of God. Health department
for City of Houston.
Yeah, City of Houston. Powerful, wonderful man of God. Great spirit. Just a good brother, man. So if you brothers, you people, not brothers, just people in general, you need some help. That's one of the places you might want to go over to Cashmere Gardens. What is it? What center is it?
Service center.
Cashmere Garden, what the service center.
Yeah, go out there. So we got a question from Latanya, Miss Bruno. She said, "What point did you realize that you needed therapy, and how was that process for you?"
I didn't really realize it. I guess I didn't really realize it until I got married.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got married, yeah. Because here's the thing: it's easy for you to isolate yourself and pretend that you're okay.
Yeah.
If there's nobody to call you on it.
Yeah.
But once you're in an environment where you can't leave and you can't pretend, then it manifests itself in a different way. So when I started seeing some things manifesting themselves in my life, and the turmoil that it was creating in my marriage, then I understood that, man, I need to see somebody.
Yeah.
But this is I think, and I don't want to say disheartening,
Mm-hmm.
but I think one of the things that a man or a woman who's coming out of prison and seeking to get some type of therapy has to realize is that this is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
You're not going in and take this magic pill and this goes away.
Yeah.
This is something that you're going to have to manage. It's not something that you're going to cure.
Yeah.
It's something that you're going to have to manage because I spent the majority of my adult life behind bars.
Mm-hmm.
I spent the majority of my adult life in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent the majority of my adult life pretending to be somebody that I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unrealistic for me to think that I'm going to get out and I'm going to sit down and have a few conversations with a therapist and now I'm cured.
Yeah.
I'm good. No. I got 28 years of indoctrination into this thing that I'm wrestling with now. So
that's strong. That's strong. So does that continue? Do you still go through the therapy? Do you still do that? How does that work?
Well, and this is what I have to be transparent. After my initial visits with my therapist and starting to feel good and starting to think everything was good, I was like, okay, I'm good. Oh, nah. But those things start to resurface.
Yeah.
So it's been a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is it's been a manageable struggle. Now I'm going back to see a therapist now on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Because although I can function at a high level, there are going to be recurrences of things that happened in your life or that were created in your life due to circumstances. So you have to be able to manage. I mean, it's very similar to post-incarceration. Well, not post-incarceration. That's what but what my wife and them has labeled it as post-incarceration syndrome. Mm-hmm. But it's very similar to PTSD.
Yeah.
And it's something that you're gonna have to deal with on a continual basis.
I agree. And you said something key, function at a high level. That's one thing that men and women that have went through these processes, because remember what I said earlier, we're trying to get people to be who they were supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So these were already intelligent people. These were already smart people. But then they went through this incarceration process 8, 9, 10, 15, 30 years. And they can function at a high level there because you have to be able to manage all these relationships. Mm-hmm. So now I'm out and I'm managing one relationship, but those relationships were really insignificant. Those were like get me through the day relationships. Mm-hmm. The relationship with your spouse, with your children, with your mother, those are very significant relationships that sometimes we don't know how to put that extra depthness into, mm-hmm. Because it requires a lot of us, and that's something that's not in us.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I think that I had to realize too, that it wasn't in me. Though I can function at a high level, I can do 12 things and do them all well, I'm not able to give a relationship that depthness that it needs.
And it's not necessarily that it's not in you, mm-hmm. but it hasn't been developed in you.
True.
See, over a period of time, you haven't being removed from society and being removed from those responsibilities and those stimuli mm-hmm. in society. You never developed. We never developed.
I never developed.
Yeah, we never developed those things that would translate into us being successful fathers, successful husbands, successful spouses, successful friends.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of close friends.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we didn't do. So the struggle for the majority of us who have been incarcerated, the way to develop those traits and allow us to be quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
We're never gonna be normal.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen.
And
I got a T-shirt that I saw at a store that I bought
Yeah.
recently, and it said, "You thought I was normal. That's on you."
I think that I've kind of accepted that more lately.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah.
And I think it's just because of the struggles that I've had. Not necessarily adjusting, but the struggles that I've had, because that's a relationship as well. And I think that I've actually accepted that, and I'm more comfortable with who I am. And it's not the fact that I don't want to deal with the next person that's causing me to look at these things or this relationship. It's the fact that, okay, I'm letting you know this is who I am.
Right.
I'm willing to work on who I am in this relationship because we have this relationship.
Right.
I'm willing to do that. But one thing that needs to happen, we both have to understand who one another is
Right.
too. And I think that's one thing that we miss out on as come from where we come from, because we care less, man. We'll cut you off in a minute.
That's part of the
I mean,
part of the process. Yeah.
But that's not always good. My counselor Becky told me that. He said, Damion, when you get out and get into a situation like this, he gave me a scenario. I said, man, I just stop.
Yeah.
He said, well, how does that work for you? I said, man, it's worked for my whole life. And I was dead serious, but you can't do that though.
But you look at your whole life
Exactly.
prior to that, and you say, nah, it's really not working. You know, it really hadn't worked for me my whole life. That's been with the process, but that's been what I've implemented.
Yeah.
It hadn't worked for me my
Exactly.
whole life. So I mean, it's just, man, this thing is so, we could never cover everything
Exactly.
that we need to cover,
Exactly.
and as far as this conversation is concerned, in the amount of time that we've had.
We're gonna wrap it up, because I agree with that, but you are the cameraman. So if y'all don't know, Bruno is a cameraman on the show. He's not at church today, so you know I'm not at church no Sunday.
Yeah.
But Jerry P. Beasley listening,
Hey
we
man,
can
you
get
ain't
us
supposed to claim that, bro.
praise music. But Jerry P. Beasley
Okay.
gonna get us one of these evenings or something like that, man. So we can come up in here. But we got one last question from Miss Teresia, and she said, "Do you think the husband and wife should possibly go to counseling together as well?"
Well, here's what I'm gonna tell you, and I've had that conversation before, and I've had that question. Before you do this together, there has to be a discovery of everybody's individuality, who you are. I can't perform in a marriage as a. I don't know how to perform in life as an individual. You know, you're asking me to do for me to be married to you in union and say, man, we're gonna function at a high level together, and I don't even know who I am.
True.
So my suggestion is, first and foremost, get you some counseling individually, so you can work out some of those demons. Then work on the marriage part, because in all honesty, you probably shouldn't be married just yet.
Yeah. That's one thing again we don't understand either. So Bruno's Bruno is the cameraman. Ashley says she can't wait to meet you too. So we got a couple seconds left here. We have something on the show called Free of Charge. It's basically life lessons that you've been through, the counseling that you've done. You've paid into this with your time, with your pain, with your money. You've paid into your experiences. So that's basically what Free of Charge is. You're telling the audience, you're telling the people, man, look, I'm giving you this nugget that I've paid for with my tears, I've paid for with my joy, and it's free of charge.
Amen.
Let's give it to them.
Okay.
Some advice, however you feel.
Let me give you this free of charge. Find out who you are. Because until you can be who you really are to and with you, you can't be anything to anybody else. That's if you're playing a role. You know, you need to find out who you are, what you love, what you don't like, what you don't love, the things that you enjoy in life, the things that you don't enjoy in life. Find out who you are, develop that before you do anything else with anybody else. Because if you don't, then you're shortchanging yourself and you're shortchanging them.
Outstanding. You have listened to Kevin Bruno, Overcomer Achiever, Reentry Specialist at Prison Fellowship Academy.
Prison Fellowship Academy, Caravans Unit, Richmond, Texas. And support this program, man. Support this KCOH studio. Support Damon's program. Woo. Support these people, man. Do you realize that I'm gonna do this right quick, Dame?
Yes.
Do you realize what you're experiencing? God has given Dame an opportunity, a platform. Ex-felon, sitting there at historic KCOH, talking to the people. Come on, man. Y'all gotta support this.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I also support the camera work that Bruno does. He's an excellent cinematographer.
Get with me.
And photographer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do some work together, but he's the official cameraman for KCOH. Shout out to our sponsor, Robert Henry, from Robert Henry Clothing. And also, this tax season, you'll be able to start filing and getting your refunds January 2nd. So contact me if you need some help with your taxes. 'Cause I'm doing taxes this year. Crazy.
Uh-oh.
But we're working. Thank y'all. We will tune in next week, January 5th. My birthday's coming up January 28th. If y'all want to give me something, give me. I'll be 43. Hank Aaron, what was Hank Aaron number?
43.
Who was 43?
Oh, I don't know.
Man, we got to find a 40. I need 43 jerseys, y'all. You have tuned into the show on KCOH TV, The Boost, on the historic KCOH studios in the historic 3rd Ward. We will see y'all next week. We thank you for tuning in.
Be blessed. Thank you. We out there?
Huh? Yeah, we out
okay.
there. That's something real, y'all. This.